Well, middle of summer, summer garden's in full swing. Everything is nice and hot and dry. We want the weather to start to change. So now's the time to start thinking about your fall garden. So let's get everything together and let's start some seeds for our fall garden. So what we're going to plant, we're going to use a Brunswick cabbage. We grew this one last year and it was a very good one. This is a Pablo lettuce. Absolutely delicious. And no landscape is complete in the fall and the winter without having the violas or the pansies. And you got to have that Napa cabbage or a Chinese cabbage. This is a flat Japanese flowering kale. If you've been to any botanical garden, or a lot of people have this in their landscape, they use it because it gives you a color in the fall. I have never grew this, so I wanted to make sure this year that we had it on the list. We're going to put this all through the landscape. And we have another type of lettuce. This is an iceberg type lettuce, and we're going to try this one new for the first time. So let's get these seeds started so when fall gets here, we're ready to go. So we have our 6-pack trays sitting in a 10-20 tray that has the perforated holes in it, and then into a 10-20 tray that holds water. So what we're using here is Pro Mix. And we just want to go through and fill our trays with the Pro Mix. Now this Pro Mix, we've been using it for years. It has proven to be a real good seed starting mix. There's a lot of different seed starting mixes out there, but we have settled on the Pro Mix. We've had great success with it, so that's what we stay with. Get all your trays full. Just take your fingers and push them down, because when you get it wet, it will settle. And you want to make sure these are filled to the top. And once you get it full, like that, you're ready to soak it down real good. Get it good and saturated, and then we're ready to start our seeds. It's time for the irrigation system to come on, so I decided to put all these trays that needs to be nice and wet before we put our seeds in it. Just decided to put them under this and save some water because we have some open spots here. All right, once everything is nice and damp, first thing you want to do is go through with your finger and put you a little indentation in your seed starting mix. Doesn't take just, you can use your finger or the end of a pencil or anything. You just want a little place for your seed to set. Now we're going to start with the Japanese flowering kale. So just drop a few seeds in each hole, and don't worry about trying to get just one in it, because once they germinate and come up, you can always separate them and put them in their own container. Most of the seeds that we start this way, we'll have, we may have start a 36 cell tray, and then by it's over, we got way over 100 of these seeds that we separate. So you'll end up having more, but I like to have more than one seed just to make sure that I do get germination. And once you do that, just lightly cover them up and then press them down. And then the last thing that you'll need to do is make sure you put a tag in it so that you know what seeds that you started. All right, we got all our seeds planted and we got them in our seed starting rack. So at this point, all we're going to do is bottom water as the soil dries out. At this point, bottom water only. We don't want to wash those seeds deep down in the soil because they're very small. They only need to be a 1/4 inch deep. Now the last thing we're going to do is we're going to put a humidity dome over the top just to help hold moisture in. I do not want this to dry out at any point. I don't want it too wet and I don't want it too dry. Once the seed germinates, I'll take the humidity dome off. It'll take about 7 to 10 days for most of these seeds to germinate. And then at that point, we'll remove the humidity dome. So, know it's the middle of the summer, but they will stay in these. They need about 6 to 8 weeks to grow into a plant that we can transplant. And that will be the perfect time for me in Zone 7B to start putting these seeds in the garden. Once we get germination, it's just all about letting them grow into that plant that we can put in the garden. But we have germination. Everything looks good. Now one thing, if you notice, see how these plants are leaning? I have one of my LED lights went out, so I'm having to do with one. That's usually 2 in there. So they're leaning and looking for the light. But at this point, we're just going to bottom water. And like I said earlier, we're not worried about having so many in here because we have one back here that has not germinated. So we can, here in about a week to 2 weeks, we will start to thin these out and we can put them into these others.